God of War, Sons of Sparta takes the iconic series and gives us a 2D Metroidvania prequel. You will play as Kratos in his teenage years as he and his brother Deimos are Spartans training to become soldiers. As one of their rank goes missing, you'll begin a 12 to 20 hour-long journey of discovery. This is a magical world filled with horrifying beasts, grown men voicing teenagers, some jank, and eventually, a solid adventure. Sparta. The game's first 4 hours are pretty bland, boring, and full of annoying voice work. If you can power through that, you will be rewarded with a rich story that fills in Kratos and Deimos' backstory. The overarching narrative is an adult Kratos telling a story to his daughter Persephone. She, of course, alongside her mother, is soon to be slaughtered by Kratos thanks to interference from Ares in the first game of the series. Getting to see Kratos as a father and as a teenager is interesting, though I admit, I wish the game was an adult god-powered Kratos to really make the Metroidvania trapping shine. This setup works well for the story though, as eventually, Kratos, early on, looks and feels a bit more like Bobby Hill than the eventual God of War. Deimos is brash, annoying as hell, though he too has an interesting and heartfelt change by the end of the campaign. Sons of Sparta does feel pretty basic for a while for both the combat and platforming, and while that platforming never really changes that much, the combat goes from being something I really didn't like to an almost fantastic system roughly halfway through the game. Square is your attack button, and that never really changes, but what developer Megacat does instead is have you start using modifiers with L1 and R1 for dozens of different moves. Circle is your dodge, while R2 uses your currently equipped godly gift / boon. X jumps, and roughly halfway through, you will get a double jump that makes the platforming a little more bearable. That is, outside of the fact that they chose to have Kratos take chip damage and get pushed back if he ever just touches an enemy. It's really not my favorite type of damage system in a 2D title. I prefer for only readable attacks to be the way that you take damage and you can just sort of pass through people. Outside of, falling into pits or hitting spikes on walls. Having to use the analog stick to move also felt a little weird as well, because your godly gifts and your eventual heal are all tied to the D-pad. As deep and fun as the combat can be in one-on-one situations, the damage on touch can lead to some frustrating platforming in combat sections. If enemies surround you, trying to use your dodge to get away can take a few seconds as you constantly bounce between enemies, seeing your health quickly drop from full to zero. The game's combat does use a color system to let you know what type of attack is coming in. It mostly works pretty well outside of a couple of enemy types that give you almost no warning before the attack hits. There's yellow, blue, and purple attacks. One you can't block, the other you can't dodge, and one you can do neither and must avoid entirely. While bosses and larger enemies give you time to know which is which, there are a couple of smaller guys that are really fast and they attack the moment their color shows up. Most, though, only have 2 attacks, so as long as you can memorize what they can do, it was never overly difficult. As a Metroidvania, Sons of Sparta encourages exploration. On normal difficulty, you will want to find every offering and upgrade possible for your godly gifts. You'll slingshot, burn, and magic your way around the environment with consistent new abilities being dished out. Fast travel is stuck with a between each godly temple system until near the end of the game. At one point, not long before the credits roll, you will get the ability to fast travel between your camps. These are small areas that, in a Souls-like fashion, can be used to heal back to full, but that respawns enemies. I'd save your full map clearing for once you've gotten that go to each camp ability, as the last fight of the game is a sure doozy that's going to be a lot easier if you have as many upgrades as you can grind. And Kratos does have multiple upgrade systems tied to the game's classic blood orbs, as well as various items you will find in the environment. It is mainly a single-player game. In the post-game, once you've beaten it, you can unlock a challenge mode where 2 people can play. I only have 1 controller, so I did not get to try that. Your gear consists of a spear with various parts you can equip and upgrade. You have a shield that also sees you craft new variants that can be upgraded to improve your stats. Each of your godly boons can be upgraded through 2 systems. The first are doing challenges at olive trees, and the second is to find statues dedicated to them. Each gives you various upgrades and unlocks for the boons. The game makes it clear how these systems work, though it doesn't ever actually directly push you to have to do them. I found it far easier once I had my gear upgraded with more health, stamina, and magic. and the boon upgrades can be more damage or less meter usage. Those meters are tied to how you attack. Regular attacks give you yellow orbs, which refill your Spartan spirit meter. Magic attacks and breakable jugs give you blue orbs, which power your magic meter back up. If you hold R1 while attacking, that changes your spirit orbs into health ones instead, being the main way you'll heal outside of camps until you finally get your heal after the winery section. God of War Sons of Sparta is an alright looking game. I'm not a big fan of how the characters look in comparison to the backgrounds. Characters have a sprite look with incredibly smooth animations. The backgrounds, on the other hand, are more painterly and static, with little animation most of the time. Some of the later sections have really beautiful vistas, but it doesn't always feel cohesive. It is by no means an ugly title, just a bit bland for most of the game. The last few bosses have some of the best designs in the overall game, which was welcome as I got really sick of fighting a different color variant of the same bird boss multiple times. The graphics, while they're fine, they're fine. What is mostly kinda bad until it shifts into being damned good and emotional is the story and voice acting. The game features a lot of young teens being voiced by grown adults using pitch changers, and it never sounded right, even when the story took a much more mature turn with its very emotional ending. And the voice acting is not bad, but the actual writing early on kinda is. Kratos is real boring, Deimos is real annoying, and the surrounding adults are pretty stock standard characters. Everyone, as per usual in the series, uses a just straight up American accent, and as someone who rarely likes history and has a Greek friend you all know from this site, hearing the way the gods' names were pronounced was still a little jarring. Thankfully, the music was always good and occasionally excellent. It loops a lot early on, but it's a damn good loop in the forest area. Sound effects hit that occasional nostalgia part of my brain as well. And as I said earlier, the story picked up roughly 3/4 of the way through. It wasn't enough, obviously, that late on to make me love it, but it was a solid shift from aimless stumbling around while looking for a lost kid into something deeper and more meaningful by the end. Playing on a base launch PS5 digital, the game ran pretty well, though using rest mode did nearly destroy me. A few times I defeated a boss only to find that I could do nothing and that my last save was well before the fight, so I would avoid using rest mode in this one. Wrapping things up, God of War Sons of Sparta has a weak start, solid middle, and strong ending. If you can get through the tedious first few hours, you will eventually be rewarded with solid combat and an emotional story.